Okay, all right. Ready. No. So there's a double check to see if our sharing is good. Yep. Okay, we are online. Let's go back to Zoom. Oh, that's good. Got it. Okay, we're studying the Isopanisad, but first we're going to chant. And let's figure out what we're going to chant. Hopefully something spiritual. Let's go. All right. Get the guitar. Oh, there goes the camera again. Hold on a second. Let's reset the camera. Here we go. Chewing the guitar. It's really off. All right. Ante Jaya Madhuvadai. Jaya Madhuvadai. Taruni Mandala Mate. Taruni Mandala. Just change so you can hear the sound better. Taruni Mandala Mate. Taruni Mandala Mate. Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhuvadai. Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhuvadai. Damodaru Rati Vardhana Veshe Odish Gupta Vrinda Vipineshe. Damodaru Rati Vardhana Veshe Odish Gupta Vrinda Vipineshe. Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhuvadai. Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhuvadai. Vishavanutani Navashashileke Lalita Sakikuna Ramita Vishake. Vishavanutani Navashashileke Lalita Sakikuna Ramita Vishake. Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhuvadai. Taruni Mandala Maite Taruni Mandala Maite Randhe Jaya Jaya Madhvataite Randhe Jaya Jaya Madhvataite Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jai Ko Hari Bo Hari Bo Hari Bo Jai Om Vishnu Pad Paramahansa Paravidikacharya also Tera Satashi Shimad, His Divine Grace Abhaya Charanada Bhaktivedanta Goswami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Vidas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Gadadha Shiva Siddhi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Radha Krishna Gopi Gopinath Sayam Mukunda Radhakunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavanam Ki Jai Mathuradam Ki Jai Jagannath Swami Ki Jai Yamunamai Ki Jai Shrimati Lasi Devi Ki Jai Samveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Gaur Premananda Hari Hari Bol. All glory is the assembled devotees. All glory is the assembled devotees. All glory is the assembled devotees. All glory is to Shri Guru and Gauranga Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namani Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharni Nivashesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Dejatarni. So, we are going to continue with our study of the Sri Isopanisad. First, I'm going to read the translation to this poem called Sri Radhikastava by Srila Goswami. It's one of my favorites. O Radha, all glories unto you, beloved of Madhava, object of worship for all the young girls of Gokula. You dress yourself in such a way as to increase Lord Damodar's love and attachment for you. You are the controller of Vrindavana, the pleasure groves of Lord Hari. You are a new moon arisen from the ocean of King Vrishabhanu. You are the friend of Lalita, and your wonderful qualities, friendliness, kindness, and faithfulness to Krishna, endear you to Vishaka. You are an ocean of compassion, and your divine characteristics are described by the four Kumaras, Sanaka, Sanatan, Sananda, and Sanat Kumar. O Radha, please be merciful to me. So, Srimati Radharani Ki Jai, Srila Rupa Goswami Ki Jai. So let's continue with the Sri Isopanisad. We're on mantra 14. So Om Gana Timidanda Shagananjana Shlakaya Chakshuran Meditam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances at the lotus feet of my spiritual masters, Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, so kindly freed us from the morass of ignorance while we were in the deepest darkness of ignorance, and he's enlightened us with transcendental knowledge. Okay, on that happy note, let us go ahead to the Sri Isopanisad. Now first we're going to share the screen on the text itself. We're in the middle of the purport of text 14, actually text 14. So we're going to share the screen, not change the screen. Share the screen and read the mantra again, and then go back to where we left off in the purport. So mantra 14 reads as follows. Sambutim cha vinasham cha yastad vedo bayam saha vinashena mrityum tirtva sambutyam tamashnute. One should know perfectly the personality of Godhead Sri Krishna and his transcendental name, form, qualities, and pastimes, as well as the temporary material creation with its temporary demigods, men and animals. When one knows these, he surpasses death and the ephemeral cosmic manifestation with it. Ephemeral means temporary, basically. Really no substantiality. And in the eternal kingdom of God, he enjoys eternal life of bliss and knowledge. So again, what this verse means is that if one knows perfectly, does not have to know everything about Krishna, but at least perfect knowledge about Krishna's name, form, qualities, and pastimes, perfect knowledge about their position. You're not going to know all of Krishna's names. You're not going to know about all of Krishna's forms. You're not going to know about all of Krishna's qualities. And you're not going to know about all of Krishna's pastimes. Impossible. But you'll know some of them, some of the forms, some of the qualities, pastimes, and some of the names. How about that? And you'll actually know their position. Janma karma chame divyam. To know they're transcendental. Basically, that's what you need to know. And that Krishna's a person. As well as the temporary material creation with its temporary demigods. And that explains everything. It's a temporary material creation created by Krishna, and it goes away after some time. Bhutva bhutva paliyate. Once you know those two things, then you do something about it. Not simply theoretical knowledge. You do something about it. And what is that you do? You actually perform bhakti yoga. And that way you can surpass death and leave this ephemeral cosmic manifestation. Goodbye, material world. As they say, goodbye, cruel world. And then you go back to Godhead. Okay, so let's stop sharing that screen, and then we'll share the screen where we have left off in the purport. All right, let's find that screen. All right. It's one of these many windows I have open. Nice computer, I'm able to open up a lot of windows. Okay, here we go. In the middle of the purport. Govinda. Oh. Oh, you want me to increase the audio? Okay, hold on a second. Sometimes it goes down without my knowledge. Give me a second, Prabhus. I will increase the volume. Give me 1 second. Okay, should be plenty loud now. Plenty loud now. Okay. Thanks for letting me know. That's why I always check the chat window. All right, here we go. Material scientists and politicians are trying to make this place deathless because they have no information of the deathless spiritual nature. This is due to their ignorance of the Vedic literature, which contains full knowledge confirmed by mature transcendental experience. Unfortunately, modern man is averse to receiving knowledge from the Vedas, Puranas, and other scriptures. You can't avoid death. I am sorry. There's no way. We talked about this before. Uploading your brain into a computer, that's not you. Or you can take some herbs, it's not you. Whatever you do, it ain't going to accomplish anything. Maybe prolong your life a little bit, yeah, if you're a devotee. If you're not a devotee, then when you're supposed to die, will actually occur when it's supposed to die. Now, you can't do anything about it, no matter how many herbs you take. Vishnu Shakti, from the Vishnu Purana, we receive the following information: 6.7.61. Vishnu Shakti Para Prakta Chitrak Yakita Tata Para Chitrak Yakya Tata Para Avidya Karma Sangnya Tritiya Shakti Ishate. That's also mentioned in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya 6.154. Lord Vishnu, the personality of Godhead, possesses different energies known as para, superior, and apara, inferior. The living entities belong to the superior energy. The material energy in which we are presently entangled is the inferior energy. Okay? So let me explain. Although we've gone over that first before, there's basically three categories of energies, and there's different subcategories within each one of those categories. But there's the spiritual energy, which is fully conscious. There's the material energy, which is fully unconscious. It's called avidya karma. It means ignorant activities. And then there's us, who are half conscious, who have the ability to choose to become fully conscious or dilute our consciousness or cover our consciousness by associating with the material creation. The material creation is made possible by this energy, the material energy, which covers the living entities with ignorance, avidya, and induces them to perform fruitive activities. Fruitive activities means things, you want things in this world, and guess what? You're being controlled by the material nature, and guess what? You're going to lose them, ultimately. Yet there's another part of the Lord's superior energy that is different from both this material inferior energy and the living entities. That superior energy constitutes the eternal, deathless abode of the Lord. This is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 8.20. In other words, part of the spiritual energy, okay, that part of it, one of the categories within, subcategories within the spiritual energy, is the spiritual world, the deathless abode of the Lord. That means abode means home. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 8.20. Parastasmat bhavagyo yaktok yaktak sanatana yaksar sareshu bhuteshu nasyatsu na vinashyati. All the material planets, upper, lower, what this says, okay, I got to translate it for you. Paras, transcendental to this material energy, vyakto vyaktat sanatana, beyond the manifest and unmanifest, is the eternal abode, and yaksar, the Vishu, living entities in there, are not lost. All the material planets, upper, lower, and intermediate, throughout, including the Sun, Moon, and Venus, are scattered throughout this universe. These planets exist only during the lifetime of Brahma, the long lifetime. Don't worry about it, it's not ending soon. Some lower planets, however, are vanquished after the end of one day of Brahma and are again created during the next day of Brahma. That's not ending soon either. We're just in the middle of the day right now of Lord Brahma. On the upper planets, time is calculated differently. One of our years is equal to only 24 hours or one day and night on many of the upper planets. And in Lord Brahma's planet, 1 year's equal, 1 year of Lord Brahma is equal to, 1 year on this planet is equal to an instant in Lord Brahma's planet. The four ages of earth, Satya, Treta, Dwarpa, and Kali, last only 12,000 years according to the timescale of the upper planets. Such a length of time multiplied by 1,000 constitutes 1 day of Brahma, and 1 night of Brahma is the same. That's 1,000 what's called Divya Yugas, which means that all 4 yugas, which is one cycle of yugas. That's 1,000 of those is at Lord Brahma's day, and the night is the same duration. Such days and nights accumulate into months and years, and Brahma lives for 100 such years. At the end of Brahma's life, the complete universal manifestation is vanquished. In other words, the whole show is temporary. The living beings who reside on higher planets like the sun and moon, as well as those on Marchaloka, this Earth planet. Marchaloka means the planet of death. And also those who live on lower planets, all are merged into the waters of devastation during the night of Brahma. During this time, no living beings or species remain manifest, although spiritually they continue to exist. This unmanifest stage is called avyakta. Avyakta actually means not manifest. Vyakta means manifest. Avyakta means not manifest. Again, when the entire universe is vanquished at the end of Brahma's lifetime, there's another avyakta state. In other words, everything becomes unmanifest, even Brahmaloka. But beyond these two unmanifest states, this is all the translation of this verse we just read in the Bhagavad Gita. Paras Tasma Vyakta Avyakta Sanatana. Beyond these two unmanifest states is another unmanifested state, the spiritual atmosphere of nature, because the spiritual atmosphere of nature is not manifest to us, but it's manifested to people there. There are a great number of spiritual planets in this atmosphere, and these planets exist eternally, even when all the planets within this material universe are vanquished at the end of Brahma's life. There are many material universes, each under the jurisdiction of Brahma, and this cosmic manifestation, in other words, of a Brahma, because there's a different Brahma in each universe. And you can become the Brahma of your own universe if you want. I do not want. And this cosmic manifestation is within the jurisdiction of the various Brahmas, but is but a display of 1/4 of the energy of the Lord. Eka Pad Vibhuti. This is the inferior energy. In other words, 1/4 of the total manifestation of universes, both material and spiritual, of the Lord is what comprises this material universe. In other words, 3/4, just to do our little mathematics, because within a whole you got 4 quarters, and if you take away 1/4, you get 3/4. So 3/4 is the spiritual realm. Beyond the jurisdiction of Brahma is the spiritual nature, which is called Tripad Vibhuti, which, as we said before, means 3/4 of the Lord's energy. This is the superior energy, or para prakriti. The predominating supreme person residing within the spiritual nature is Lord Shri Krishna. Predominating means the boss. It's a fancy word for saying the boss, the most important person, the one who controls everything. That's the predominator. As confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 8:22, he can be approached only by unalloyed devotional service and not by the process of jnana, philosophy, yoga, mysticism, or karma, fruitive work. The karmis, or fruitive workers, can elevate themselves to the Swargaloka planets, that's the higher planets, which include the sun and the moon. Jnanis and yogis can attain still higher planets, such as Maharloka, Tapoloka, and Brahmaloka. And when they become still more qualified through devotional service, they can enter into the spiritual nature. Either the illuminating cosmic atmosphere of the spiritual sky, that means the impersonal Brahman, or the Vaikuntha planets. Vaikuntha means the planets without anxiety, according to their qualification. It is certain, however, that no one can enter into the spiritual Vaikuntha planets without being trained in devotional service. Krishna actually says this in the Gita, Bhaktamama Vijanati. Yavanyas chasmi tatvata. You can only be known by bhakti. Bhaktamama Vijanati. So, what does it mean, bhakti? To do something to please the Lord. It doesn't necessarily mean you got to do a big thing. As Prabhupada would sometimes say, it's Krishna sometimes doesn't see what you do for him, how much you give him, but how much you hold back. So let's say if you give Krishna $1 million, he doesn't need it, of course, and you're holding back 1 billion, that's not great service. And if you give Krishna $10 and you have nothing to yourself, that's great service. Just like the example of our friend Hanuman. Hanuman was building the bridge, assisting Lord Ram with building the bridge to Lanka. And as he was carrying these giant stones to build the bridge, there was a little spider. And that spider was kicking a little dust to try to assist Lord Ram. And Hanuman got very upset with him. He said, "Why are you in my way? Get out of my way, you little puny, nothing, ridiculous, insignificant spider." And, of course, that was an offense, a mad spider offense. So anyway, so then what happens is Lord Ram says to Hanuman, chastising him, "You should understand the spider is doing as much service as you are." And we talked about this morning. We talked about this in regard to Sabari. Some of you may have heard the story of Sabari from the Ramayana. Sabari was from a pig-eating caste or pig-keeping caste. But she had the association of this great devotee of Krishna named Matanga, the sage Matanga. And because of that association, she became completely purified. And she was instructed by her guru, Matanga Maharaj, to wait for Lord Ram until Lord Ram came. And every day she was so devoted, she was making a path made of flowers in case Lord Ram came that day. And she probably waited for years. Then finally Lord Ram comes, and Lord Ram walks on that path. And she offers Lord Ram this fruit, but she's tasting these little berries first. The same berry that she's tasting, that has her little bite mark on it, is actually being given to Lord Ram. And that's generally an offense. I mean, actually, even if you look at something before it's offered, it's offerable. Not quite look, but if you lust after it. What to speak of eating it or tasting it? Prabhupada instructed us when we cook, we're not supposed to taste the food before Krishna. So anyway, so she was doing that, and Lakshman, Lord Ram's brother, got very upset with this lady and said, "What is going on?" And Lord Ram said, "No, she's doing great service." So for what one person would be a great offense, for another person is great service, because that person is doing it with love and devotion. So that's the point. You do it with love and devotion. So, anyway, there's many examples of that. Many examples how Krishna appreciates things with love and devotion, but things without love and devotion Krishna doesn't appreciate. Krishna was offered opulent food that was being cooked in Duryodhana's kitchen, but he preferred to eat a little simple porridge that Vidura's wife was making, because it was made with love and devotion, whereas Duryodhana had no love and devotion. He was simply trying to eventually capture Krishna. I mean, God knows what he had put in the food. On the material planets, everyone from Brahma down to the ants is trying to lord over material nature, and this is the material disease. We're all trying to do that. You got to admit it. You got to be a little introspective. If you're not introspective about that and admit it, you're not going to make spiritual progress. I am trying to lord it over. I am trying to lord it over other people. I'm trying to lord it over my pet dog. I mean, sometimes people get pets. Why? Why do they get pets? Sorry if I'm offending anybody with pets. They get pets, I'm not saying all the time, but they get pets because there's some entity they can lord it over. not only lord it over, there's some entity that will love them, they think. Or there's some entity that will be obsequious, that will always be at their beck and call. Or some entity, as in the case of a cat with nice fur on him, who will give them sensual pleasure. That's lording it over too. Sensual pleasure. Generally people make these romantic relationships because of this desire for sensual pleasure. As long as this material disease continues, the living entity has to undergo the process of bodily change. That's called reincarnation. Whether he takes the form of a man, demigod, or animal, he ultimately has to endure an unmanifested condition during the two devastations, the devastation during the night of Brahma and the devastation at the end of Brahma's life. And you also have to undergo death probably 1 billion times in between or during the day of Lord Brahma. If we want to put an end to the process of repeated birth and death, as well as the concomitant factors of old age and disease, that means that factors that occur at the same time, we must try to enter in the spiritual planets where we can live eternally in the association of Lord Krishna or his planetary expansions. It means people like, not people, people, Krishna the person, his Narayan forms. Lord Krishna or his planetary expansions dominate every one of these innumerable planets. That means they're in charge. A fact confirmed in the Shruti mantras. Eko Vashi Sarvaga Krishna Idya Ekopi San Bahudayo Vapati. That's from the Gopal Tapani Upanishad. No one can dominate, that means control, Krishna. It is the conditioned soul, that's us, who tries to dominate material nature and is instead subject to the laws of material nature and the sufferings of repeated birth and death. And I was actually thinking how modern technology leads us to that conclusion, improper conclusion, that we can dominate material nature. Like, for example, here I am at my keyboard on the computer, and if I want, I can order so many different things for myself and just sit comfortably in my little house. It gives me more power. Well, right now I can reach out using my mystic powers of computer and internet to people around the world. Like right now I'm talking to people in Australia and New Zealand, and I can quiet you. I can mute you. That's great power. I mean, how many times are we able to mute someone? How many times have I been speaking to someone and thinking, I wish there was a mute button? But I've never had it. But now, by the mercy of Zoom, by the mercy of the internet, I can have the power to mute people. So, anyway, we can order things just sitting down. And then we actually get upset if something doesn't come the day it's supposed to come. Anyway, so the Lord comes here. So we're God, and if someone's not obedient to us like we expect, we have these unrealistic expectations, we get angry. Someone gets married, and if the wife doesn't do everything at the snap of the fingers, they get angry because they have this expectation. That's God speaking. A man's house is his castle. He's the Lord, as they say, the Lord of the manor. The Lord comes here to reestablish the principle of religion. And the basic principle is the development of an attitude of surrender to Him. This is the Lord's last instruction in Bhagavad Gita 1866, as we know, Sarvadamram Purityāja Mam Ekam Shataram Braja. Give up all other processes and just surrender unto me alone. Unfortunately, foolish men have misinterpreted this prime teaching and misled the masses of people in diverse ways. Diverse means many ways. People have been urged to open hospitals, but not to educate themselves to enter into the spiritual kingdom by devotional service. They've been taught to take interest only in temporary relief work, which can never bring real happiness to the living entity. They start varieties of public and semi-governmental institutions to tackle the devastating power of nature, but they don't know how to pacify insurmountable nature. Many men are advertised as great scholars of the Bhagavad Gita, but they overlook the Gita's message by which material nature can be pacified. Powerful nature can be pacified only by the awakening of God consciousness, as clearly pointed out in the Bhagavad Gita 7:14. Daivyesh Gunmaya Mama Maya Duratya Mama Eva Ye Prapachante. So this material energy is very difficult to overcome, but one who surrenders unto me can easily cross beyond it. So there's an interesting pastime of Prabhupada that I just heard today about some lady who was a disciple of a prominent impersonalistic or impersonal guru in India. And she came to see Prabhupada. And she wanted to present her guru's version of Bhagavad Gita to Prabhupada. Thought she was going to enlighten Prabhupada. She said, one thing she pointed out, or tried to point out in front of Prabhupada, she said, the word Krishna, according to my guru, means dark. And in one sense, Krishna is dark, blackish like a rain cloud. But she said her guru interprets that as to meaning someone who cannot be known. And Prabhupada immediately got upset. He said, someone could not be known, who cannot be known. Not by him, yes. He is being honest. He can't know Krishna. Because Bhaktimam Avijanati. Yavanyas Chasmi Tadvata. Krishna can only be known by devotion. So it's the fact that Krishna is unknown to him. So in this mantra, you have all these people, rascals, who teach various misinterpretations of the Gita. In this mantra, Isopanisad teaches that one must perfectly know the Sambhuti, the complete person, the personality of Godhead, and Vinasha, the temporary material manifestation, side by side. That's exactly what I've been saying in the last few classes. You have to cultivate spiritual knowledge and knowledge about the material world, or even how to use the material world in order to get out of the material world. By knowing the material manifestation alone, one cannot be saved. For in the course of nature, there is devastation at every moment. Ahani ahani bhutani gachanti amalayam. That's an interesting quote. That's actually from the Mahabharata. The question was raised, what is the most wonderful thing? And the answer Yudhisthira Maharaj gave was, Hani Hani Bhutani Gichantiya Yamalaya. That we see everybody, Kimascharya, Ataparam. We see everybody dying. But we think, not me. I'm going to be at everyone else's funeral. But nobody will be at my funeral because I ain't going to die. That's the amazing thing. Nor can one be saved from these devastations by the opening of hospitals. One can be saved only by complete knowledge of the eternal life of bliss and awareness. The whole Vedic scheme is meant to educate men in this art of attaining eternal life. People are, otherwise, what's the purpose of life? Huh? You just live for the sake of living, and after you're dead, it's all gone, and you lose everything. This is just a waste. Why waste your time? People are often misguided by temporary attractive things based on sense gratification, but service rendered to the sense objects is both misleading and degrading. We must therefore, here's the key, save ourselves and our fellow man in the right way. There's no question of liking or disliking the truth. It is there. If we want to be saved from repeated birth and death, we must take to the devotional service of the Lord. There can be no compromise, for this is a matter of necessity. Oh, that's a really important statement. You may not like the truth. You may not like that you're going to die. I mean, I'll give you an example with my my dear mother. I one time tried to preach to her and tell her, this life is temporary. It's like a drop of water on a lotus leaf. And she said, don't talk like that. Basically, don't spoil it for me. Maybe true, but we don't talk about things like that. It's like spoiling the movie for someone. Just like sometimes you want to go to a movie and someone tells you what the ending of the movie is, the great mystery in the movie, who done it, as they say. And then it's just, you're thinking, oh my God. When you're watching the movie, it's just like, it spoils everything. You're watching it and you know how it ends. There's no mystery. There's no suspense. It's just like, there's a lot of action in between, which sometimes is a little interesting if there's a lot of technological tricks in the movie. But still, you know how it ends. And so because you know how it ends, you can't really enjoy the movie. So in the same way, we are telling people how it ends. And once they hear how it ends, we spoil it for them. You ruin my attempts to enjoy or be an illusion by giving me this Krishna conscious philosophy. Why did you do that? Why did Prabhupada have to give me this Krishna conscious philosophy? And now, in my mind, I'm always thinking there's no enjoyment. It's all temporary. You took away my whole impetus for trying to enjoy this material world. That's a fact. Okay, so that's text 14. And now we'll go to mantra 15. We have 5 more minutes. I guess we can start it. This is a really nice verse that deals with impersonalism versus personalism, or those who want to be absorbed in the Brahmajyoti, the light coming from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It's really interesting. So, Hiranmayena Patrena Sachasya Pitam Mukam Tatvam Bhushana Pavrinu Sacha Dharamaya Dushtiye. So the word by word synonyms. Hiranmayena, by a golden effulgence, Patrena, by a dazzling covering, Satyasya, of the Supreme Truth, Pihitam, covered, Mukam, the face, Tat, that covering, Twam, yourself, Pushan, O sustainer, Apavrinu, kindly remove, Satya, pure, Dharmaya, unto the devotee, Drishtaye, for exhibiting. Here's the translation. O Lord, sustainer of all that lives. Just where we're going to leave off, basically. 15. 14b, 15a. O Lord, sustainer of all that lives, your real face is covered by your dazzling effulgence. That's the Brahmajyoti. Kindly remove that covering and exhibit yourself to your pure devotee. So in other words, a pure devotee is not interested in the Brahmajyoti because that Brahmajyoti may impede his vision of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Okay, let's read the purport. Purport. In the Bhagavad Gita, 14th chapter, text 27, the Lord explains his personal rays, Brahmajyoti, the dazzling effulgence of his personal form, in this way. Brahmano hi pratishtaham amatasya vayasya cha shashvatasya cha dharmasya sukhasya kantikasya cha. Very important verse. I am the basis of the impersonal Brahman. In other words, the impersonal Brahman comes from Krishna. This is what we're talking about, which is immortal, imperishable, and eternal, and is the constitutional position of ultimate happiness. Now, I should really explain that. People ask, what constitutional position of ultimate happiness? Does that mean if one merges in the Brahman, one will get ultimate happiness? So, because it's the constitutional position? No. Because Brahman, the impersonal Brahman, is like the atmosphere of the spiritual world in which there are planets. So the happiness happens on the planets, not outside the planets in the Brahman effulgence. Outside the planets, if someone is merged, of course you can't merge into the Brahman effulgence really. You can enter into it, and because you lose your consciousness, and because it's like the green bird going into the green tree, it appears that the soul is merging in the Brahman effulgence, but the soul is not. It maintains its individuality as a little spark, just like we have these lights nowadays. Okay, and there's many of these little LED segments inside each light. I'm sure many of you have seen. The new lights are basically all LED. The old lights were a different technology, but these are LED lights, so that it may have 3 or 4 or 10 or 20 different little microchips, like not really microchips, but anyway, LED bulbs inside. And if you look at some of these, I mean, I'm looking at some right now in my house that definitely have more than one inside, and it just looks like one light. But if I take apart the bulb, the electric bulb, I can actually see many lights inside there. Of course, if I do that, it won't work anymore. But that's just the technology. So in the same way, if you look at the Brahmajyoti, it appears like a brilliant light. But if you were to go closer, hopefully you don't go closer, but if you were to examine it, then you would see that there's infinite jiva souls who are each one of those lights, and they're floating around in there, and they are brilliant because the soul is actually brilliant. And they are completely unconscious, comatose. And that's the Brahmajyoti. But within that Brahmajyoti atmosphere, there are the planets where you can have a relationship. Okay. So, on that happy note, because we all want a relationship with Krishna, we're going to stop sharing and allow you to ask questions. Give me a second to unmute or allow people to unmute themselves. All right. So you are now allowed to unmute yourselves. You're allowed to type. Of course, you're always allowed to type in the chat window, and you're allowed to raise your hand. You're always allowed to raise your hands. Okay, who has a question about anything we read today? Oh, no one has a question. Going once. All right, someone ask a question.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hi, Hare Krishna, Abhinandani. So what's your question?
Maharaj, I'll try to explain myself. It's a bit confusing.
Okay.
You said that Krishna sees not how much we are giving, but how much we are holding.
Prabhupada said that, yeah.
So it's this should not apply just to our monetary status. It should also be whatever talents we have if we are not engaging it completely in Krishna service.
Yes, it applies to whatever opulences we have. You know, there's different opulence: money, beauty, intelligence. Was something not applied or given to Krishna or utilized in Krishna's service will be utilized for the service of Krishna's material energy. So yes, whatever we have should be used for Krishna.
So Maharaj, on the same line, sometimes I find because of my own inhibitions or my own shyness, I am holding back on sharing Krishna consciousness. And I find sometimes it's actually like if not sharing is basically telling them more about Krishna consciousness or giving a positive influence, because I was in India in November, December time, and my whole family, no one is into Krishna consciousness, but they really appreciated that I did not share anything about Krishna consciousness with them. So, it was like they just came with me to the ISKCON temple, but no one was interested. And at the end, they said, "We like that you don't share your stuff with us." And I found that I was not able to share, and I felt really bad.
Yes, I mean, sometimes one has to be very discreet because people feel that if you, they don't even say share, they say if you preach Krishna consciousness to them or force them to accept Krishna consciousness or berate them in some way, uh, it actually, their sense of autonomy gets threatened or their ability to enjoy the material world gets threatened. Like I mentioned before, when I would try to tell some of my relatives about even the facts of the material world, not even deep Krishna consciousness, just the fact that we're going to get old and die. I mean, that's not even from the Vedic literature. I mean, it's in the Vedic literatures, but you don't need to read the Vedic literatures to know that people are going to get old and die. But they get very upset because it spoils it for them. So there's various reasons. So in many circumstances, we can't use all the talents we have in a particular circumstance, so we use them in another circumstance. I think that's, I wouldn't feel guilty about it. I mean, I also experienced that with relatives that when I tried to preach them, it just made them angry. And then when I just made friends with them, then they began to appreciate Krishna consciousness more. Because, otherwise people would think we're fanatics or forcing them or something like that. So that's discretion. So you have to know when to manifest. Just like a tortoise, the example used in the Gita, has to know when to put out its senses or limbs and when to pull them back within the shell. So that's intelligence. So, yes, very important.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Yeah, so you did the right thing. Because they would not have taken up Krishna consciousness otherwise. The best thing is you just give them prasadam. I was just listening to a memory of one of the devotees concerning Prabhupada, and Prabhupada was very concerned that everybody get prasadam. And that was one of his main concerns. He said people are like animals. And it is true. Most people like animals. The people who just engage in eating, sleeping, mating, defending. There's no difference between them and animals. So Prabhupada was very insistent. Whoever came into his room to see him had to get some prasadam. And then there's a very interesting story. So there's one devotee, his name was Hari Shari, one of Prabhupada's great servants. He was serving Prabhupada, and Prabhupada was in London, and Hari Shari was at the Manor, the Bhaktivedanta Manor, which is outside of London in Lechmore Heath. And so because Hari Shari had gone there to receive his parents, who his parents hadn't seen him for 5 years. That's a long time. So anyway, so Hari Shari's parents came, and he showed them around the manor, showed them the deities, and they were all right, they're appreciative. Okay, you made your choices in life, we go along with it, fine. So unfortunately, when he went to the kitchen to try to get some prasadam, the devotees told him, "Oh, our Sunday feast is really early here. There's no more prasad." So Harishari was very disappointed, and his parents really didn't get a chance to see Prabhupada, only seen Prabhupada when Prabhupada came to the manor just as they were leaving. So they just saw Prabhupada from the window of their car, or through the window of their car, not from the window. So what happened is that later on Hari Shari went to see Prabhupada, and Prabhupada said, "How did it go with your parents?" And Hari Shari told Prabhupada, "My parents had a really nice tour. They appreciated everything we're doing." And then Prabhupada asked, "Did they get prasadam?" And Hari Shari said there was no prasadam left, and Prabhupada just was very upset and indicated in this way practically their whole visit was wasted. Now, why was it wasted? That's really interesting. Because they had not engaged in Krishna's service. because the whole point is to engage in Krishna service. We engage in Krishna service by chanting his holy name, giving a donation, doing some active service for Krishna, decorating the temple or cleansing the temple or something like that, and taking prasadam. But Prabhupada would sometimes say to someone who was giving lectures, he said, what is the good of your lecture unless they surrender and do some service? So there always has to be prasadam distribution, and Prabhupada always insisted on that. So that's the main thing. So sneak some prasadam to your relatives and don't tell them about Krishna if it's going to make them angry. Upadesho hi murkanam prakopaya nashantaye. The problem with someone being foolish is that if you give them good instruction, it makes them angry for a variety of reasons. One is that you're trying to dominate over them, especially with relatives. And second is you're going to spoil it for them by telling them the end of the movie. So use your intelligence. Okay, here's another question. How can one chant purely? That's a really interesting question. How can one chant purely? By chanting purely. How can one chant purely? Study the Shikshashtaka. Don't only recite it, but study especially, Trinadapi Sunichena Tarodi Vasihushnana Manina Manadena Kirtaniya Siddhahari. That be humble. Think of yourself lower than the straw in the street. Be devoid of all sense of false prestige, and above all, be ready to render service to others and be tolerant. I was actually talking about this morning about how tolerant Prabhupada was. This morning I was listening to a lecture that Srila Prabhupada gave, and that lecture was given in India during the Holi festival. Now, for those of you who know about Holi, it's a time in India where not everyone, but a lot of people are firing off fireworks. I mean, it goes on all night and all day, and they even throw fireworks at you. I mean, I've been on Govardhan Parikrama. People would throw big firecrackers at me. It was like a war zone, basically. And I couldn't sleep at night because there was explosions going off everywhere. Somehow or other, people take that as enjoyment. I mean, that's another thing Prabhupada said. Prabhupada said that for some people, that's how enjoyment is relative. Some people, these explosions are very enjoyable. And Prabhupada said for us, they're not enjoyable. They're just a botheration. So the point I'm making is that Prabhupada was giving class and there were explosions going off like every half minute during his class. And he never got disturbed. I'm sure he didn't like it, but he just went on and on and on giving class and didn't even interrupt his train of thought. And I gave the example the other night, last Friday night here. I was giving a lecture at someone's house, and they had a clock that made noise every 15 minutes. Gong, 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 gong. One gong for the 15-minute mark, 2 gongs for the 30-minute mark, 3 gongs for the 45-minute mark, and 4 for, when the big hand hit 12. Not the little hand, the big hand. So each time it went gong, 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 gong. I stopped. I mean, I couldn't continue. I just said, let's wait till the gonging is over. And I said to the owner of the house, it's a stupid clock. Why don't you use a watch instead? So basically, I wasn't tolerant. Whereas Prabhupada was just like focused in what he was doing, and he was very tolerant. So if you're tolerant like that, that's really the key. So that's what it means to be humble. Tolerant. Trinadapi Sunichena Tarodi Vasihushnana. More tolerant than a tree. So the tolerance is the first thing. And the continuing to serve Krishna and not thinking, why is this person, I was thinking, when the gong, 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 gong was going off, why has this person let his clock disturb me like that? So, it wasn't really, it was a little self-centered. I wasn't thinking, why is Krishna, why is this person disturbing the class? I was thinking, why are they disturbing me? Why don't they just unplug this stupid thing? So there's a difference. So obviously I wasn't as tolerant as Prabhupada, and I'm not claiming to be as tolerant as Prabhupada. I was ready to tear the clock off the wall and start smashing it with a hammer, which I didn't do, fortunately, because that's not the etiquette that a guest should have. Okay, we have to end class now. Thank you very much. We'll see everybody same time, same station tomorrow evening. All glories to His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki